to my channel. My name's Olivia and today I'm going to show you how to make a corset. So I've really been wanting to make this tutorial for a while. The pattern's out, I've got a TikTok tutorial out, which I'll also link in the description if you want a shorter form video. But I've been meaning to make a long video for a long time, so I'm really excited to do this today. Now this corset pattern is one I created, it's for sale, and I'll have that also linked in the description. And this took me a long time to create, a long time to draft different sizes of, and I'm really proud of it. So I think after all these years I've made hundreds of corsets. It's the product that kind of got me really into sewing, the first thing I made that I really loved, and I loved how I could kind of tailor it, adjust it, personalise it, make it my own, do it with boning, just try different things. And I've tried so many patterns, I've watched so many tutorials and just spent probably thousands of hours making corsets. So I think I am a trusted person to come to when asking about corsetry. Now just to clarify, this is not a historically accurate corset. I've studied history at university. I loved researching historical corsets. I find them amazing, and one day the dream is to have a brand creating historically accurate corsets. But unfortunately there is a lot of hand sewing involved. They're very complex and they would take hours and hours and hours, probably weeks, if I was doing the real hand sewing techniques that they did. So I've not done a pattern for that. I'm not selling those just because I'd have to charge hundreds or thousands. So this is a modern day interpretation of a corset, quite simple, but it's still lined, boned, sucks you in, and I just love it. They also sell really well, I still sell them, so that's also on my Etsy shop if you want to buy any of my handmade corsets. So first let's talk materials. I'm using this amazing fabric I got from my local charity shop. It was £3.20 and I just love the print. I think it's amazing with this massive lily flower, some little blossoms. I think this will make a gorgeous corset. So I'm using this as my outer fabric, and you want something thick if possible, but you definitely want it to be non-stretch. And then for the lining, I'm just using a plain white fabric. But you can use another fabric and make this top double-sided, so it will look the same on the inside and outside, so you can very easily make this a double-sided corset. Next up is the pattern, which you can buy via my website or my Etsy. It will be linked below. I'm using the size medium. These are mine from when I've developed it, obviously made from an old cornflake box. Next up, you need some kind of boning. I love zip ties. They're just the perfect width, and they're ever so slightly flexible, so they'll flex with the body, making them more comfortable. But you can also use metal boning, or you can buy sew-in boning. And the amount depends on how many boning channels you want. I usually do about 3 or 5. Today I think I'll just do 3 at the front. I've got a heat erasable pen to trace my pattern with to then cut out. And then I've got 2 sizes of ribbon. I've got this 1-inch wide ribbon, and we use this for the back closure. So you fold it in half, tuck it between the fabric, and this will make the loops. And then I've just got this ribbon that we're going to use to actually close the top. And once you have all of this, then you're ready to make a corset. Something I would like to note about the corset is that it's just one panel at the front. So in terms of the chest, this is more of a push-up. It's designed to not have a bra worn underneath, and it pushes your chest up versus actually supporting it. So if you have a really large chest, then to be honest, I wouldn't recommend this pattern, but I like it because it's quite traditional in the sense that it literally just pushes everything up, and that is how it fits, and that's how it's supposed to. But there are lots of patterns online where they have darts, or they actually follow the shape of the bust so that they can provide more support, and you can even get ones where they have full-on cups in them, if that's what you prefer. I'm now going to cut my fabric. For my heat removable pens, I think I actually got them from Aldi, but they're friction pen copies, so it's meant to just be an erasable pen, but these are actually heat removable, so when I iron this, then it will come off with the pen, and this is incredibly useful for boning. I recommend these over the ones you buy in sewing shops. They're just much cheaper, and I prefer them and find them more reliable. So I've traced out my pattern, folded it in half to make sure it's going to be perfectly even, and now I'm just cutting it out. So here is the bodice piece. I've just got a bit of each flower on the main panel, and now I'm going to cut the side pieces. So you want one of these in the outer fabric, one of each side, and for the side piece make sure that you do a mirror of each one. So you want one going that way and one going that way, because it's very easy to cut 2 going the same way. Trust me, I know from experience. And then you want 2 cornflake straps, and I'm going to do that for the outer fabric and the lining. Now we're moving on to the sewing, so you want to get all of your pattern pieces, lay them out, and then lay them right sides together. I'm just going to pin along the sides. A quick tip is that I always like to sew in the same direction, so I'm going to sew from the top to the bottom, and that is for every seam, including all of the boning. This just helps to avoid puckering and ensure that all the tension stays consistent. So that's why I folded this piece over, and I'm going to sew down here, and I'm going to sew down here, and then you'll be left with the front piece of your corset. I'm doing the exact same on my lining pieces. And for the straps, it's super simple. You just put them right sides together, pin along the sides, sew along both edges and leave the ends open. This next step is optional but recommended, and I'm going to sew down these seams so they lay super flat. And I've just pressed them so that they all lie in the same direction. So I'm just going to do a straight stitch along here so it looks really neat from the outside. So this is now how it looks at the front, and then you can see at the back the seam just lays perfectly flat. Okay, next we're going to actually put the lining and the outer fabric together. So you want to lay your outer fabric down, get your straps, and then lay these face down. And then I'm going to pin mine. And then personally, I also pin it down here. And this just makes sure that it doesn't move, so it will stay perfectly straight. Because if you put it even at a slight angle or it shifts, then it really changes how the strap sits and it can ruin the fit of the corset. And now I'm going to get the lining, and I'm putting this right side down. And now I'm going to pin the whole way across the top of the corset. You can then turn it around, and then here I'm going to tuck the straps out of the way. I'm going to sew the whole way across where we've pinned and leave the sides open. Make sure that you use a straight stitch here, and you'll see why in the next step it becomes very important. Now I'm just unpinning the straps before I turn the whole thing inside out. And now you can see that the top's really coming together and it's starting to look fabulous. All we have to do now is the boning, attach the straps and close the edges. So first I'm just going to take this to the ironing board and make sure it lays super flat. I'm going to be talking a bit more softly now. It's the next morning. I'm just filming this before work and my boyfriend is asleep, so I don't want to wake him. I've just got my morning tea and my cute sushi mug. But at this point, you've got this wonderfully ironed corset, and I'm now going to show you how to add the boning. Now this is optional, you don't need to add this, but I love it for the support it gives. I folded the corset in half with the right side facing outwards. Using my heat removable pen here, you can just use pins, but I recommend the pen. My boning is quite thin. I know that this fits perfectly if I line up one side of the seam, move it over along the foot, and then sew the line next to it. So that's how I've always done it. I haven't needed to trace the boning. If you've got thicker boning, then I recommend doing that. So I'm first just going to draw a line right down the middle. And you can freehand this, you can add as much boning as you want. I'm just doing 3 channels. I then like to do mine going a bit diagonal, so from the top to the bottom. And then I'm marking across where these edges are, opening this up, and then I'll match it up. And this is what I'm left with. So I'm now going to sew along all of these lines, and remember to sew all in one direction, either going down or going up. I'm now going to cut the tops off of the zip ties, and then as they have a sharp edge, then I'm just trimming that down so that it doesn't poke through my fabric. I'm going to cut them to the correct size. So you want it to end maybe ½ an inch from the bottom. So I want this to be around that long. And I'm going to do the same. And this will fit like that. I want 2 of these because I've got 2 evenly matched boning seams. The middle. Next, I've got my unpicker, and I'm going to unpick the bottom of each seam so we can slide the boning up here. This is why it's important to do a straight stitch, because if you overlock, for example, then you make it really difficult and it would probably cause a hole in the fabric. And then what I like to do is get the not very blunt side of my scissors, they're really small, and I just stick them up. But you don't need to do this, or you can even use a pencil, for example. And then we'll slide the boning up. So I love this method, I think it's really easy, and when we stitch the bottom closed, or you can have bias binding, it just looks really clean. And it avoids you having to add any binding or sew the seams down. And I've done it before, you might also want to add boning to the back seams as well. But I'm happy to just wear this as a summer top, I don't want too much stiffness. We won't sew this down yet, we'll do that later because we can do the whole bottom side when we finish these sides. So you want to fold the corset in half and measure the length and work out how much smaller you want it to be. So this is perfect, this is about 26 inches, I have a 27-inch waist, and by the time I've folded in these sides and added the ribbon, it will fit perfectly on my waist with a tiny gap for the lace up. So I will now take this to the iron, and what I'm going to do is fold in the edges like this, and then I'll iron it down. so all raw seams will be covered. You should always be folding it in half and making sure you're happy everything is even. And I am, the sides look good. At this point you also want to check that you're happy with the straps. I'm happy with them, so we're also now going to sew these in. Here I'm going to seam rip the straps. And then we'll very simply slide this in. And repeat. The straps are now pinned and ready to be sewn. I want to add in the ribbon closure, so I can just do one long seam. If you're a beginner, then I would recommend just sewing this down. But you want to cut 4 little ribbon loops. So I just eyeball this, I don't really have a set length. This is approximately 3.5 though. So I'm going to cut 8 of these. And the method here is to fold them in half and tuck them into the seam. So it just sticks out about that much. And I'm going to now try and evenly space them. I always end up needing to go back and forth a bit and shuffling things along. Again, you want to repeat this on the other side. Now back to the sewing machine, we're going to sew a stitch along here and along the top of the strap. And I like to do a double stitch, so I'm going to do 2 straight stitches. It just makes it super secure. And the very last step is to sew this all closed. So I like to sew the whole way along the whole of the bottom seam just because it looks nice. But you can definitely just start from the side seams and do this bit. I've done that before many times and it still looked good. And that's it, you're done. You've now got an amazing corset that should fit you perfectly. So I'll do a quick try on and show you how to lace up the back. Okay, you want about 2 meters of this white ribbon and I'll show you how to close it. So I just hold the corset around my waist like this and I put a piece of the ribbon down at the bottom, pull it through, and then I go to the other side and I go 1 up. I'm doing the same, I'm going 1 up again, so onto the 3rd. And finally, over to the 4th. You then want to take this over to the other side, and then from the top go down. And you just repeat this exact same process, but going down. And then when I've done it the first time, I never remove it. I'll just pull the corset open as far as it allows and then I put it over my head. So you only need to do this the first time really. And then it looks like that. So I've just twizzled the corset around my body and I'm now just pulling these bits of ribbon at the back. And then I tie a regular bow. And that is it. You can see what I was talking about, how it just provides push up and then it's sucked in my waist nicely. But here is your finished product. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching, but please let me know how your creations go and if you make this corset or buy the pattern. I love to see pictures of when people have made stuff. I also actually sell the corsets I make. So if you want to buy a handmade one from me, you've seen how much love and care and time goes into them, so feel free to purchase one. See you in my next video.